The Express is the fastest and most important passenger train on the Fat Controller's Railway. It always needs to run whatever happens, and be punctual. Gordon is usually the engine in charge. He is very proud of this job and likes boasting about it. You know, I'm the only engine who can pull the Express. You're too small for it, little James. The other engines, however, know that it wasn't really true. Even the Fat Controller knew. The Express runs from the big station at Nafford all the way to the end of the main line. There, a foreign engine takes charge of it and takes it all the way to the big city. When these foreign engines arrive with a train on the island, they usually stay the night and return home early the next morning. The engines enjoy the visitors, especially Gordon, as he got along with them all. You know, when I was young and green, I remember going to the big city. You know the place? It's called King's Cross. King's Cross, the foreign engine said. It's called Houston. Everybody knows that. Rubbish, Duck interfered. It's called Paddington. I know. I have worked there. You two are wrong, the visitor snorted. Then he huffed away to the station to collect his train home. Gordon and Duck were annoyed as well. I'm sure it's King's Cross. I'll go and prove it, Gordon told himself. The next day, the Fat Controller announced that another lone diesel, which was almost done being mended from a small incident, would be arriving throughout the next few days. The engines didn't like the idea at all. They had their fair shares of troublesome diesels before, and still weren't completely trusting them, especially Henry, who didn't get along with one diesel in particular, Daisy, the diesel rail car. Every time they meet at Thomas's Junction, they would get into an argument. The other engines didn't know what to do to make them stop. Steam engines are always the best choice because we are real engines. We keep going even if we are sick or broken. That is what makes this railway famous. What utter nonsense! We're more reliable than you steamies will ever be, and you know it, Daisy fumed. The only engine to really not care was Gordon, but that was probably because he only thought of how to get to the big city. The big city laid way beyond the last station where the mainland engines took over. Therefore, he never got a chance to prove anything. Gordon tried all sorts of tricks. Once, he tried starting off before he was uncoupled, but his driver stopped him. Another day, he passed the station without stopping for about half a mile before his driver managed to stop him. I'll never make it there, he moaned. One day, a week later, he rolled into the station and went for a rest in a siding. A short while later, his crew came running up to him and fired him up. What's happening? We shouldn't be returning home yet, Gordon wondered. Gordon, we're going to the big city. What? You really mean it? Yes, the engine for the express had tipped over on the points to the yard, trapping all other engines in it. They want us to take the express all the way to the big city. Well, let's go then. They coupled him up, the passengers quickly boarded the train, and the guard blew his whistle. Come on, come on, come on, Gordon said as they took off. We're going to town, sang the coaches. With Gordon away for a day, the Fat Controller was only left with the lone diesel to handle the express. He did an all-right job, but he struggled quite a bit. The next day, Henry felt sick and rolled back home tender first. I'm a failed engine. I lost my regulator. Driver says it jammed wide open and he can't mend it before I'm cool. However, I got steam, and driver can use my reverser, but I'm sure they'll laugh at me again. When Henry approached the signal box, he saw Daisy on the up line, with a train of milk, sitting there in anger. They whistled for a row, and Henry thought to himself, "Oh great, now Daisy will laugh at me too." The signalman came out. "For pretty sake, take that sprung-up diesel away. She's failed and is blocking the line." "Excuse me, I am highly sprung and—" "Oh, shut up," the signalman called. "Heh." Henry couldn't help but chuckle as he reversed onto Daisy. He moved her out of the way, and soon they heard a train approaching. Derek rushed past with the express, trying to make up the lost time. When he passed Henry, the brakes on his train were already slightly on. It didn't help that his engine wasn't very good. When he reached the hill, it was no surprise that his engine spluttered and failed, with the train eventually stopping halfway up. Henry and his crew soon got the call. "Well, well, well. 2 failed diesels," his driver passed on. "And I thought they'd be laughing at me. Now the joke's on them." Henry's crew agreed to go help the express all the way to the last station. Henry pulled Daisy behind him. "Get moving, you." They reached the hill in good time, and Henry carefully buffered up to the brake coach. The crews talked with each other, and Henry's driver said, "Gold news. The diesel can pull if we push him up the hill, and then from behind. That means the only way we have after the hill is Daisy and her train." "That's good," huffed Henry. Shortly after, Henry called, "Peep, peep. I'm ready." "Where to?" "Come on, we'll do it. Come on, we'll do it," Henry snorted as he started to push and pulled the 2 diesels up the steep incline. It was very hard work, but Henry kept on pushing and snoring up until the top was reached. "We did it, old boy," his driver shouted. Henry was very proud. They made good time after the hill and approached the last station only 30 minutes late. The passengers were, of course, furious about the delay, but the fat controller, who had been on board Daisy, told them that without Henry's help, the train would have still been stuck. After realizing their mistake, they instead thanked Henry and his crew for their fine work. Henry was very relieved that he had finished the journey. After that, Henry towed Derek and Daisy to the works, where they would all be mended. Later, the engines waited at the big station for Gordon's return from the big city. When he approached the station, they cheered and whistled very loudly. The fat controller greeted him warmly. "Well, Gordon, I heard you had a good time in the big city, didn't you?" "No, sir." "Why ever not?" "It isn't King's Cross anymore." "I told you so," Duck interrupted. "It's St. Pancras." Duck was shocked by this too now. "What?" The engines were even more surprised when Daisy and Henry already returned home, and they were actually friends and not arguing. "Hello, everyone. Guess who's back?" "You 2 aren't the only ones," James told them. "Gordon is back too, sadly." Gordon, of course, didn't know what happened, so it came down to, "What did I miss?"